Howdy champs, my name is Mohit and welcome to part 2. Let's understand pseudo-elements before and after. In part number 1 we had seen just the browser preview and I told you that I'll be taking you through 3 examples. 1 which is slightly complicated, 2 which are actually pretty simple to understand. And we'll start with the simplest one that involves the opening and the closing block quotes. And I told you that I'll be doing the whole document all over again from the very beginning, so you'll understand things a lot better. Alright, notice that I'm actually using the HTML5 doc type, and there's absolutely nothing inside the opening and the closing body tags. I'm gonna push in something out here between opening and closing body tags. Right, now notice what I've actually done. I've inserted a pair of opening and closing block quotes which contains some text which says Mohit Manuja knows how to work with pseudo elements before and after. And in fact, let's save everything up. Let's take up a browser preview in Chrome. Right, there you go. So you see block quotes, opening closing tags do actually nothing apart from indenting the text towards the right hand side. So you see that text indent out here. That's all that block quotes actually do. They indent your text from both the side, or your content from both the sides. It doesn't do anything else. It does not add the opening and the closing quotation marks, people. Then you have an h2 going, which has a class of menu. Then you have few paragraphs with a class of either wedge or non-wedge, and you have certain entries here which are basically some Indian recipes, people. Some of them vegetarian dishes and some of them non-vegetarian dishes, and this is how things actually appear in the browser. I'm going to use the colon before and colon after pseudo elements to add the quotation marks. Before I even do that, I would want to show you my local site folder. Now inside my local site folder, people, in the root I have 1, 2, 3 and 4 images. I'm going to use this and this image first, and this image later on for the second example. Okay, let's get back to the HTML document. Now immediately after the title tag, people, I'm going to use Zen Coding Code Assist plugin to code out real fast and insert some internal or embedded styles. I'm going to add a class. I'm going to add some style to block quote. Let's see how I can actually do that. First things first, I'm going to use the font shorten property. I'm going to say that I would want my font to be 24 px and Courier New. So basically, instead of using the longhand property, font size, font family, I've just used the font shorten property. And that's all that I've actually done. Let's save the document, bring up the browser and refresh, and you can actually see the change of font out here. Nothing more, nothing less. Right, and you can see it's indented from both the left and the right hand sides. We still don't have the quotations. Let's add the quotes. Let's see how we can actually do that. Right, what I'm going to do is I'm going to say block quote colon before. This is the way, people, you're going to add some content before the block quotes. Have the opening closing curly braces going. Then we'll use the content property, people, that I talked about in the first part. And then we'll use URL to point to the actual image that I would want to use. I'm going to use the open quote image. I'm also going to ensure that I'm using the vertical align property, and I'm pushing my open quote GIF image 10px upwards. The default is baseline along with the text, but I'm pushing it upwards. Let's save the document up. Let's bring up the browser. Let's refresh, and you can actually see that I've inserted this block, this opening quotation marks just before the text. I'm going to do likewise after the block quote. So instead of saying block quote before, I'm going to say after, but this time instead of open quote image, I'm going to use the closed quote image, which is this image, people. Okay, so just changing the image, and this closed quote .gif file is going to insert itself only after the content, basically the block quotes. And again, the vertical align is 10px, pushing the image upwards. Let's save the document up, bring up the browser, let's refresh to see the change. Now quite clearly, people, you can see that we have opening and the closing quotation marks before and after the text, which is encapsulated by the block quote tags. So that's taken care of the first example. Let's check out the second example too. Alright, I'm going to insert a class called menu. Why is that? You notice out here we have used the h2 element, and that h2 element has a class of menu. I just want to underline the h2 element. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to push in a class called menu, like so. So the class menu decides that the h2 element should get text decoration underlined. So just use the text decoration property, people, nothing else. If I hit the refresh button, you can actually see that my h2 element has the underline. I could have also used the bottom border bottom property and kept it as 2px solid or whatever. I could have used that too to underline. Anyways, so let's move ahead. Let's forge ahead. Let's create the classes wedge and non-wedge. Right? Since the paragraph tags, opening closing paragraph tags, have the attribute class either set to wedge or non-wedge, so let's do that. So wedge, and in fact I can create a group selector, non-wedge. Again, people, I'm going to use the font shorthand property. So font, I'm going to say italic, then bold. I would want my font to be italic, bold, and Palatino linotype. So this one. For both my classes wedge and non-wedge. Since they are classes, people, I should have added a period out here, a period out here, and a period out here. Alright, let's save the document up, and let's bring up the browser. So let's refresh to see the changes. The first change, people, is that the platter tonight, the h2 element, is actually underlined, but I don't see the class being applied to paragraph tags. Why is that? Let me just check. In fact, I had to pause the video to be absolutely sure where I actually went wrong. I think the only place probably where I'd actually gone wrong was that I had not mentioned the font size. Again, I had to rewrite the group selector, the multiple selector. So dot wedge class, and so you have a comma separated class, people. Dot non-wedge class should have the shortened property font set to italic bold 18px. Probably, I'm not so sure, since I had to rewrite it again, probably I had forgotten to mention 18px, Palatino linotype book. So these are fallback fonts, people, right? So you can see now that everything works just fine. I'm not so sure why just skipping the the font size out here would really matter, but anyways, so everything is actually sorted. I've used a group selector to target both the classes, wedge and non-wedge, keeping the font size 18px, italic bold, Palatino linotype, and that's exactly what has happened. Right, so let's move ahead and apply the colon before and colon after pseudo class selectors, or pseudo elements. Let's use the after and before pseudo elements. So let's see how we can actually do that. This is the way we're gonna write, people. So the wedge class colon before, and then as mentioned earlier, we have the content property, and through the URL, so before the class wedge, I'm going to add some content before using the URL property, using the content property rather, and I'm going to go with, since the vegetarian dish is a vegetarian dish, I need to prefix the vegetarian symbol, which is this symbol, people. This is the symbol that I would want to see before every recipe that's actually vegetarian. Okay. At the same time, people, I'm going to use the vertical align property. I'm going to set it to middle. The default is baseline, people. I would want it to be middle, and I'm going to use padding, but padding right. So push, keep some space between the symbol used, which is this symbol, wedge.jpg, and the text. I would want to have some space out there, and padding right. So let's say 10px or whatever. Right. So let's save the document up and let's see what are the changes that actually reflect. Okay, quite clearly, only the recipes which are actually vegetarian, this one, this one, this one, this one, get the prefix symbol and some space, the 10px padding that are actually applied to the content. Quite clearly, the content is this image. It's aligned vertically with the text, and some padding right has been applied of 10px to push the text away from this symbol, people. Alright, I also needed to add some content after. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to copy this rule up like so. I'm going to paste it down below out here like this. I'm going to change the before to the word after, so that we can use the colon after pseudo element, and this content, people, is no more gonna be the image, but I'm gonna use some text, and I'm gonna say vegetarian recipe, or simply vegetarian, or whatever, and vertical align middle. Let's see whether I actually need that. I don't think so. I actually need that. I wouldn't need it actually. I wouldn't need the padding. That's all I need. I just need to say that please add this text, and that should suffice. So at the same time, people, I would want to use the color property and set it to green. Yep, to match the color of the symbol. So let's save the document up, bring up the browser, let's refresh to see the change. Wonderful. In fact, I think I'll just go with one single dash out here. That should be enough. Let's save the file up, bring the browser, refresh. Yep, that's enough. Similarly, people, I'm gonna copy this bit so I can easily make my edits and create new rules. So this wedge before will become non-wedge before. So that's non-wedge before. That is the name of the class, people, if you remember. Non-wedge. Yep, it's used out here. Non-wedge, wedge. Right. So non-wedge before, the image will change from wedge.jpg to non-wedge.jpg, which is basically this image, people. This is the symbol, the non-wedge symbol, and the vertical align middle is fine, padding right 10 pixels is fine, and as far as the other class is concerned, this will be non-wedge. So camel casing, after, instead of saying vegetarian, I'm gonna say non-vegetarian. And color, I'm gonna change to red. And I'm gonna save the document up. I'm gonna bring up the browser. I'm gonna refresh and see the changes that have actually taken place. So only the recipes which are actually vegetarian display the green symbol, the vegetarian symbol. Other paragraph tags that actually had the class non-veg display the other symbol, the red symbol, and also display this text after. So you see, people, how easy it is to add some content before and after your elements, just the way I've actually done out here. As far as the third example is concerned, people, I would not write it all over again. I'm going to go back to the previous file. I'm just going to explain it to you. Since you have, and I suppose you actually have, I hope you actually have understood the concept quite clearly. So I'm going to take you through the bordered example verbatim. So this is the first file that I actually used to show you the preview, the bordered preview. Okay. Now everything is just the same, the block code before, the block code after, the class menu, wedge, non-wedge, etc. But what's different out here is I've used certain rules out here, and that's something that I'm going to discuss with you. Let me first start off with the browser preview once again, people. And if you notice that we had this you know, the nice blue border all around the body, I could even shrink and I would still get the fixed border all around. Great. So let's see how this was actually done. I've used a rule for the body, the parent element. I made sure that the margin was 0 from all the 4 sides. So just taking care of any default margins. Sometimes they just, you know, it could have been 5 or 10, so making sure that there are no margins at all. It's just like a, you know, a body reset rule, only a body reset rule. Okay. Next, people, what I've ensured is that I would want a left border and a right border, which should be quite thick, 10px solid, and of this light blue color. I also wanted that my body should have some padding inside, so basically creating some cushion between the content inside and the body. I made sure that the background that I'm actually using, so I'm using the background shorten property. I'm not using the background dash color property. I'm just using the background shorten property, and I'm ensuring that the background color is azure, which matches the border color, people. It gives it a very nice appearance, as you can see out here. Right. Now, deliberately, I've kept the height of my body to be a 2000, which exceeds quite clearly the highest size of my monitor and probably all the monitors. Most monitors won't exceed this size. 200px, just a very high figure. So we have two parallel borders, left and right, running from top to the bottom and not getting truncated. So just a very long border, people, very high border on both the sides. So this was the easy part. Now this could slightly confuse you. What is about to follow could slightly confuse you. Now it's mandatory to use the content property when we use the colon before, colon after pseudo elements. So I've used colon before and colon after, and I've attached it to the body. I would want some content before the body and some content after the body. The trick out here is to use empty strings for the content. If you're not going to push in any content, just use empty strings, but you have to use the content property, people. And now whatever follows applies itself to the content. So I would want my content, although it's null, to have a position property of fixed. Okay, I would also want my content to have some background color, which is that mild blue color. Alright, I would also want that it should have the left and the right placements to be 0, and I would want my background to have a height of just 10px. Yes, it's possible, since I would want my content to be actually a background color. Basically, I'm restricting my background color to a height of 10px. This will give you the appearance of a border, a background color not flushing the entire width and the height, but just being restricted to a height of 10px and flushing from left 0 to the right 0. So basically a band at the top and at the bottom. Just because I've used the before and after pseudo elements, people, running from flushing left to right, having this color but a height of just 10p. This is a trick, people. I'm tricking the browser, right? And I've had two more rules that I've created. If I'm using the body colon before rule, I'm ensuring that the top is 0, and if I'm using the body colon after rule, the bottom to be 0. So those two bands at the top and at the bottom, this one and this one, these are nothing but background colors, people. They are flushing from left to the right, have a height of 10px, look like a border, but they are actually background colors. They are this background color, flushing from left 0 to the right 0 with a height of 10px. They're also touching the top 0 and the bottom 0. Top 0 when they're before the body, and bottom 0 when they're after the body. So I'm actually tricking the browser, people. Rest everything we have already discussed. So what happens then is, we had earlier placed left and right padding, then we had placed top background color of height 10px, bottom background color of height 10px, using the body colon before colon after pseudo elements, people. Right. So yes, this was the tricky part. We're just fooling the browser, and it's a trick. It's a small trick, people, and the effect that you get is just wonderful. Don't you think so? So no matter what size I have, you see I'm actually resizing it, I get a fixed bordered shape, which exactly is just a left and right border, people. These two are background images. So it's a wonderful effect. So you see how effective colon before and after pseudo elements can be. So I hope you like this tutorial. I hope you will thumb the video up. I also hope that you will subscribe if you already haven't, and you'll keep coming back for more and more tutorials from me. You have a good day. Bye bye. Peace.